Hey listeners, this is Leslie. I just wanted to stop in before the episode to let you know that we are now uploading to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. We've just been on YouTube so far, and we'll always be on there. But now that we have a few episodes done, we're going to be like a real podcast and expand farther. And so, just like every podcast, we come now on bended knee to beg for your 5-star reviews on iTunes. It would be great if you could leave them elsewhere as well, but it would hugely help us out on iTunes. It really helps new people find the show. Also, thanks for the comments and feedback you've already been giving. We really appreciate it. And we hope this podcast is providing some needed entertainment for you all. Now, on to the episode!
Welcome to the Paranormal Plains, where we share oddities, curiosities, cryptids, and strange stories from the upper Midwest. This is Casey, coming from Minnesota.
And this is Leslie in North Dakota.
So Leslie, what fun, exciting, spooky, scary stories.
Well, Casey, we got a real downer today.
Oh no.
But it's relevant
to
our Corona time.
Oh no.
Just what everyone wants to talk about.
Yes.
We are talking about sanatoriums across the upper Midwest.
Oh boy. I can sense the spooky ghost stories and institutional neglect coming from here.
You guessed right. In the early 1900s, tuberculosis or consumption was the leading cause of death in the world. Anytime you've been watching an old-timey show and someone starts coughing and they take the handkerchief away to dramatically reveal blood, it's that. Yeah. Tuberculosis is a contagious disease. It's spread through the air when someone with an active case coughs, spits, speaks, or sneezes. Everyone, please wear a mask.
Yes.
The idea of quarantine was discussed by the medical community at the time, but it was dismissed since TB wasn't curable, and they knew people wouldn't seek care if it meant they'd be isolated until death. And I think they were very right about that.
They guessed correctly.
Yeah, I mean, if 2020 has taught us anything. So for a very long time, if you had tuberculosis, you would go to a sanatorium. In addition to providing care, sanatoriums isolated patients so they weren't out infecting other people. Many patients stayed in a sanatorium for long periods, as in years. There was this story of an author in Minnesota who, when he was coming into the sanatorium, an orderly told him that the guy who had been in the bed before him was there 16 years before he went home cured.
Holy
Yeah, he was like, excuse me? Like, I'm gonna be here how long? The only widely accepted treatment at the time was fresh air, rest, and sunshine. So patients were basically sleeping outside year-round, even up here.
Oh no!
Yeah. I was reading about the Glen Lake Sanatorium in Minnesota, and it said, some hardy residents wore custom sleeping suits that covered them head to toe, so they could sleep on the porch all winter.
Yeah, I think you could just sleep inside and crack a window or something, like...
Hey, you can do that at home. If you want full blast air, fresh air, you go to the sanatorium.
If I want the full sanatorium experience, I gotta get my winter suit on.
Yeah, I think they had 25 blankets on them too and stuff like that. I don't know. It sounded really intense.
Sounds like camping with extra steps.
At the same time, I found a picture of these guys in the sleeping suits and they were all like smiling, like, hey. So I was like, okay, I don't know. I won't judge. A cure for tuberculosis was eventually found. In the 1940s, antibiotics were so successful that TB was almost eradicated in the US by the 60s. Though it does still exist in the world. People still die from it.
Yes, yep.
But at the height of the era, there were over 700 institutions in the United States. And the upper Midwest has its fair share of them. It seemed like originally, for most people, these were pleasant places to recover, just boring.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, there was no TV. Most people were too poor to have radios or phonographs. So if you were well enough, you could read.
Yeah, you're just sitting with the other convalescents, just hanging out, trying to get that sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you better hope that you like chatting with the people in the beds next to you, because that's pretty much what you're going to be doing for the next couple of years. So I think what TB really contributes to their paranormal stories is the large amount of deaths as people died from the illness. Sanatoriums really had their images begin to change to the dark idea that we have now in the 60s. as they began to transition from hospitals to homes for the mentally ill and developmentally disabled.
All these facilities, needed to do something with, because it's like if they were still going to make money, they had to house people.
The places where they were being held before were already overrun, so then they started moving them to these places that had space. San Haven Sanatorium in Dunsey, North Dakota is a great example. If you don't know where Dunsey is, it's the central part of the state right at the Canadian border. It was built in the foothills of the Turtle Mountains. The high elevation was supposed to be beneficial for patients. So, Casey, you can see a lovely photo of what it looks like now.
Oh.
As in yesterday when I was there.
I was wondering why I got an email today saying today's servings of ghosts.
Yeah.
So definitely mega spooky. The brick building, the window arches on the bottom floor, 4 stories. Pretty unusual for a building in North Dakota. They max out at 4. That's a tall building out there.
You can see the next county from there.
Oh, geez. And yeah, like the whole kind of front part of it has like caved in. And it looks like there was an addition built on at some point where it's like there's the brick building and then there's another piece. And there's not a ton of graffiti on this. Like there's a couple, on the ground level. But I'm surprised with amount of graffiti on like the 2nd and 3rd stories when there's no balconies.
Yeah, there actually is quite a bit. Pretty much everywhere. It's basically been destroyed by vandals in the last couple of years. And that portion that you're referencing that has completely collapsed, I think that also happened in the past year as well.
Okay.
So.
And let me take a look to, this is straight up by really close to the border.
Yep, so basically the exact center of the state and then up by the border.
Yeah, because Rugby is the geographical center of North America or whatever, right? And it's just a little bit north of that.
Allegedly. It's actually like 11 miles south or something like that, but whatever, they can have it. They made a monument. Yeah, they can take it.
So you went there.
Yeah, it's pretty sad because it used to be this really beautiful building. It used to have like all these water features and everything that are being they've been totally taken over by nature at this point. So it really shares the same story as most of the sanatoriums here in the Midwest. It began as a tuberculosis hospital in 1912. Then when these buildings were no longer needed for the patients in the 60s, it became a center for mentally disabled people. By the 80s, there was way too many patients compared to the staff, and it was closed due to outcry over treatment. Not only were they understaffed, but there was mistreatment and neglect of patients. Physical restraints were being used. From all the death and suffering at this place, you may not be surprised that there are some reported hauntings here.
Yeah, no
The site is dubbed as one of the most haunted places in North Dakota. And you know it's real because Ghost Adventures did an episode here in 2016.
Shit, yeah.
It seems like the most common report is hearing children crying.
Oh.
Children did come here as patients. There was a children's pavilion building. People also report seeing apparitions in the windows. And the place does have a strange atmosphere. Beyond that large main building that you saw, it's actually a whole complex. Mm-hmm. There's dozens of still standing structures. And there used to be a tunnel system connecting them all. But now it's almost exposed where the roof of the tunnel in places has fallen in. Mm-hmm. You can like get into these tunnel systems from outside. So they'll just be a long tunnel kind of sticking out of the ground. And yeah, it's very spooky.
That sounds like an attractive nuisance if I ever heard one. I love how, I don't know when those tunnel systems were built, but 1912, these assholes knew to build a tunnel system. Tell that to all the fucking universities in North Dakota. Build skyways, build tunnel systems. These people can do it for this complex 100 years ago. You can do it too.
Yeah.
I'm so salty still about that.
I know, it is really weird that building complexes in North Dakota, well, when people are here in January, they'll just go outside to the next one.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we aren't going to. Build a tunnel.
It's 8 a.m. I'm freezing my off. It's -40. There's a windshield and I'm supposed to go to class? I don't think so. Give me a tunnel. Yeah. Give me a skyway.
Better yet, build a pod system that I can just get into and it'll shoot me to my location.
I wish.
Maybe we shouldn't have prefaced it with that, but unfortunately a teen boy who was ghost hunting accidentally slipped at the edge of an elevator shaft and fell 40 feet to his death in October of 2001.
Oh no.
Yeah, so yeah, again, like if there's any Urban X people dropping a pin on their maps right now for checking this place out,
be warned.
Yeah, be careful. It's also on private property. Since the 90s, it's belonged to the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa. I know I just said I went there, but so originally, I had just thought, oh, I'll drive along until I see like a no trespassing sign. And then I was just going to take a few photos from there. I assumed there'd be roadblocks, but I was driving and there weren't any signs. And so I was like, okay. So I just kept going. And then suddenly I was pulling up in front of it. So I was like, all right, well, here I am, I guess.
Yeah. Trespass at your own risk.
When I rolled up, there was a couple people, I think, in a car that was parked down at one of the other buildings. And then they left not that long after I got there. So maybe they thought I was there to bust them. I don't know. Moving to Minnesota, there's the No Pemming Sanatorium in Duluth. This property was reused as a nursing home until 2002, and it's gated, so it hasn't been completely devastated by vandals like the other one. Paranormal activity reported here includes shadow figures in the tunnels, disembodied laughter, moaning, screaming, and other unexplained noises.
You had me at moaning and screaming. That's where I cut and run.
Yeah. I have some stories to read to you of a guy who spent a couple nights in this place without permission, but it's good stuff, so.
Did he have his 75 blankets on him?
Well, he wasn't sleeping on the porch.
Okay.
These are coming from his article posted on Substreet. I believe it's from 2013. This was on his second day on exploring. He was there by himself, but a friend visited for a little bit this day. They were coming back into the hospital from outside when he heard a beeping. He says, tracking the beeping through the hospital, he found the source to be a nurse's station on the second floor. It signaled to us that a room a few doors down had its nurse call button activated. These buttons were ways for patients to signal to the staff that they needed assisting in some way. I checked the room, and sure enough, the cord was pulled next to where a bed would have been, and the red light was on.
Uh-oh.
He was puzzled as he had walked past that station a half hour earlier. Well, they reset it and moved on. But halfway down the hallway, they heard another boop beep from behind them. Another nurse call alarm, but this time from a different room.
It's messing with them.
Yeah. I thought it was a good one, yeah.
I love that's the most benign ghost. It's just like, I'm thirsty. I want my ice cubes.
I'm bored.
Ice
Bring
chips.
Me people.
I need chips.
He experienced quite a bit of activity while alone that night. He heard humming and kept hearing footsteps outside the chapel where he was sleeping. Now, I was shocked at this. Since he kept hearing it down the hallway, but then he couldn't see anything coming through the door, he moved out into the hallway where the footsteps were.
Okay, sleeping in the chapel. Smart, superstitious. Like, I got you. Like, people don't die in the chapel. Whatever. Leave sanctuary to go sleep in the hall. Fool. Fool of a toque.
Yeah. So
did our mystery ghost end up stepping on him, or what?
Well, when he went out into the hallway, he heard the footsteps again, stopping a few feet away. Then he felt a cold breeze on his face. Yeah, that freaked him out. I guess that's what took to freak him out. So
ghost farts.
Yeah. So he says he started back to the chapel, but he says it was just in time to hear another nurse call go off at the station. This was a different one even, and he was just sitting at it. I heard what sounded exactly, unmistakably, like a coffee mug being laid on the desk and the squeak of a chair. What do you think of that, Casey? I really like ghost stories where it's history repeating.
Also, kind of what a benign, I got my coffee, the guy in 2B wants ice chips again. Like, what a...
Some guy's been on the clock since, like, the 80s.
What a terror. I'm like, if I have to come back and haunt something, I want to be a vengeful, spiteful, just ghost. Just horrible haunting. I don't want to be, like, stuck in a loop of, well, I guess I gotta go to work again. Like, no.
It really seems, though, it's almost, it's just history repeating itself. The ghost or the apparition, whatever you want to say it is, the spirit, has no idea there's a guy there freaking out. He's just like, well, what does 82B want? Yeah.
It's a living. Although that it also makes it kind of spookier, too, for it to not be, to be something super mundane and see what we've experienced, because then it's nothing matters, everything matters, you've done it, you've done everything again. So the sound of the chair and the coffee cup, the benign sounds of work, stretch into the eternity of nothingness. Nothing in our lives has meaning.
What an uplifting message, thank you.
Anytime.
I was on their Facebook page of this sanatorium, and it looks like the owners are trying to get it opened up for tours.
Yeah.
But there's like all these things the fire marshal wants them to do first.
I encounter that where somebody like wants to move into a cool historic building and of course like make a cafe or a restaurant out of it. And that always is one of the things people run into is the sprinklers. So it's like, how do you install something like that without compromising the building? Mm-hmm. I was at a place recently that had that where I talked about it in the previous episode, the spooky basement.
Right.
And the fire suppression system, they had to install it after the fact. And so kind of like you've got this beautiful historic building and then there's, a pipe running through it. And it's I get it. I never take a dump on regulations because I'm a regulator, but it is one of those kind of like, that sucks. It's cool to not burn down and kill people, but...
Right. And that's exactly what they were saying. It's like, how can we put in this system and all these things that they want if it's going to destroy what people want to see at this place, Who wants to see a modern ghost sanatorium? I mean, I would, but it still would be lesser than, what you want.
Be a buzzkill.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, people want that primal danger. Is this building going to collapse and burn down on me? I feel like that's waiver territory where you get everyone to sign the waiver being like, you could totally trap inside this building in a fiery inferno, but you're okay with it, so you're going to sign off.
I mean, yeah, because it didn't seem like it was structural problems. It was just, like getting the fire system in. They didn't have, you would have to use a porta potty because there's waste as well. So it's like, come on, be cool. I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of get it, but at the same time, that sucks.
For certain situations like this, that there's not like a variance process for haunted spooky houses.
Yeah, can we get a clause for, let's focus on the real issues.
I remember one of the places there was an issue where somebody built an escape room and it wasn't permitted. And the city, when they freaked out because it's like, you built a what? Because like an escape room, that's how people die. Yeah. If that goes up in flames. Yeah, so it's just interesting where it's something that seems super mundane and then there's all this like safety that goes into it. Which is, it's kind of a buzzkill, but so is a bunch of people dying in like a building when somebody locks the emergency exit. So, But yeah, that sucks because I would totally stay in a spooky haunted house even with the risk of it burning down around me. Oh, yeah. Oh,
I was going to ask you. I wouldn't spend the night alone there.
You wouldn't be alone.
Yeah? That sounds good.
I'd be with you.
Sounds good.
I would be with you, Leslie.
Would you do it alone, though? I might go with friends. Would you go alone, though?
I mean, gosh. I part of me says, yeah, I would totally do it. And the other part is like, nah, I'm way too lazy for that. I don't leave my house. I would do for the spiritual experience, the existential, going into it knowing that I might die. That's how I would go into it.
I was thinking about it for myself, and I was, I mean, as far as I know, there aren't really stories where a ghost killed someone.
That we know about.
But I, don't enjoy being
scared,
freaked out. Yeah, I like reading about it. I don't want to be there.
Yeah, I don't want a first-hand account, but we gotta do it for the content, all right? We gotta get the content.
That's true. Well, again, I'd go with someone else, but yeah, I wouldn't be camping in the chapel. You would not find me in the chapel at midnight by myself.
Oh, see, I know what these guys gotta do. They gotta put a trailer on site, and then they gotta Airbnb the trailer.
And if people just happen to wander in the house, I mean, we didn't tell them to do that.
we Airbnb the trailer, and which you actually have to have a license for. So I can't condone not having an unlicensed Airbnb. But you get a vacation rental, and...
there's historic ruins nearby.
Yeah. And you put a sign that says, don't enter the building, and then people just so happen to enter the building. Don't sue me, please. I'm joking.
Yeah. Everything said on this podcast is...
Do we need the disclaimer, like celebrity deathmatch? All voices are impersonated poorly or whatever. I would totally dig more people doing spooky haunted expedition. There's all these old buildings. You can't tear them down because they're historical, but you can't do anything with them because they're dangerous, right? Just give them to people with like a modest death wish, just a small one.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. The last one we'll cover is the Lake Julia Sanatorium near Bemidji. This was another one that's gated, so it's still in pretty good shape. When it was open in the 30s, its staff physician was named Mary Ghostly.
Oh, no.
That's too on the nose for this episode. Doctor, thank you for all the care you always give us. I've been meaning to ask, why do you always wear that bed sheet with the holes cut out?
It's my shtick.
It's my lab coat.
Yeah.
Specialized. Visitors have reported balls of light floating up the elevator shaft, while others have heard moaning or have seen shadowy figures. The ghost of a young girl has been seen peering from a second-floor window, and the second floor was the ladies' floor. Others complain about not being able to breathe as they climb higher in the facility due to negative energy.
Oh,
I think you might be out of shape. Sorry. Like,
it's all that residual TB. Don't worry about it.
My gym must be haunted. The negative energy is keeping me from the Stairmaster.
Yeah, no, that would be me too, blaming it on the ghosts. Look, some ghost is strangling me. It's not the fact that I'm just grossly out of shape.
People have been touched, pushed, or had their hair pulled. There have been issues with flooding and lights turning on and off by themselves, even when no one is present and the rooms are locked.
Fucking punk-ass ghosts.
Now this is Ghost Adventures. You punk, show yourself! Apparently a security camera...
Sup, ghosts, your boy!
Wasn't it demons, even? Wasn't he like, sup, demons?
Yeah. It's your boy.
You know what? Actually, I'm pretty sure they went to that last one, too. The one in Duluth.
Oh, why not? Do the tour. Do the Midwest tour of spooky sanatoriums.
I mean, truly, we're just all following in their footsteps, aren't we?
Trailblazers.
Apparently, a security camera had shown a man in a white suit walking the halls, and then when someone went after him because they assumed he was a trespasser, he disappeared into the wall.
Ooh.
Yeah, but I couldn't find any pictures of that, so that might be made up.
But that's just our plausible thing. So we acquire one of these buildings, we put our trailer on, we went to trailer, and then when people say, I saw people that were like, it's just haunted, it's not like we had guests in the building, it's totally just ghosts.
And that's why, listeners, we are asking for $100,000 for us to purchase one of these properties.
And the trailer to go with it. Our Kickstarter.
Please see our Kickstarter below.
Our retirement fund.
We haunted ourselves.
You know, we could do that like a straight up Scooby-Doo villain style, just like, you know, banging on the doors and whatever. And then we really get taken out by ghosts.
Bespoke hauntings.
Oh, yes. Have a gift shop.
Yeah, that's where the real money's at. Merch.
Peddle that merch.
But there you go. Just a few stories out of the Midwest. Originally, I thought this was going to be more of a sanatorium sampler with a few states, but there were so many that I figured I'd save Wisconsin and Michigan for another episode. Yeah, it really goes to show how serious TB was, that they needed
everybody got that TB.
Everybody. Did want to talk about it because we've touched on it a couple times, that this goes hand in hand with a common problem in the Midwest with like boom building.
Yes.
And then now, what do you do with these buildings?
Yes.
Like, it's a real struggle to find out a new purpose for them. I've seen a lot of them will do these surveys where they try to find new purposes. Because do you demolish it for a parking lot or spend the money to maintain it, get it to code, preserve the history?
There was a church down, where was I? I think it was down in St. Paul. Maybe it was St. Anthony. But they wanted to keep it. And a school was using it, but it's one of those, like, it costs so much to maintain it and it costs so much to heat it that they're like, we have to tear this down so we can use the space for something else. Like, the school wanted to build a proper building, but everyone was like, no, we have to save it. Like, people had the like yard signs being like, save this building. And it's like, and then going back to Smiley, when we talked about Smiley the water tower, where people were really sentimentally attached to these structures.
Yeah,
but it's like, who's gonna pony up the $80,000 to get it like repainted and make sure it doesn't collapse and kill somebody?
Yeah.
So I go into some of these old buildings built late 1800s, early 1900s, and have been converted into a bunch of different structures. They're built on stone foundations. So you've got just stone and cement. And when I was in that spooky basement, I reached up and I touched one of the stones because I was like, oh, it looks weird. It just crumbled. It collapsed. It like,
oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing didn't come apart, but like the whole front of it just comes off.
Oh my God.
And breaks because these... Yeah, and so I looked at the lady and I'm like, I didn't touch that, you didn't see anything. Like,
and then you like twirl your cape and disappear.
Yeah, woo. But yeah, like these buildings weren't like they were built with good like craftsmanship. I don't want to knock that, but you built with what you had in the area, and so it's like you had sandstone, you had limestone, you didn't necessarily have granite to build these. So it's you can have the best masons and construction tradespeople working back then assembling these buildings. But yeah, they're still only as good as the resources they put into it.
Yeah.
the sentimental buildings that give a community character. But yeah, then what do you do with it?
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of them were repurposed. You know, you saw there was nursing home, there was other kinds of buildings, but I guess they could only keep that for so long when the costs start adding up, I think, for maintenance. So
we had 10,000 years of history. They got, wiped out so that we don't have that. And so then we have history from settlement on. But yeah, that was the whole cycle of boom and then bust. Yeah, so and then trying to maintain at least that much of it that these communities want to do. Where's the money going to come from to do something like that?
Yeah, because of that, many of these are in danger of being demolished or already have been. The Minnesota State Sanatorium for Consumptives near Walker was demolished in 2010 after no further use was found. Same with Minnetonka's Glen Lake Sanatorium in the 90s, which I mentioned earlier. The Rochester State Hospital was demolished, though you can still visit the cemetery from a hiking trail. The Kirkbride in Fergus Falls, it's sort of like teetering on the edge. Various proposals have been made to repurpose the site, but buildings are owned by like some different groups, and so its future is still uncertain. They did begin demolishing parts of the campus last year. So
I went to
elementary school.
Yeah, I shouldn't. Maybe not. Maybe I'll leave out the name, but So the elementary school I went to in North Dakota, it was built in I shouldn't even be that specific. It was built in the early 1950s, and I remember as a kid when we wanted to change the temperature in the room, it was like boiler heat. The teacher would have to wet down or like a paper towel with water and drape it over the thermostat to trick it into thinking it was colder than it was, so that way it would turn the heat on. Yeah, so I'm thinking about that where there's it was like, I mean, it's an old building. It was cool. It had like the mural on the side and like the really nice polished stone floor and.
If someone outside the Midwest is listening to this, they're picturing like a one-room schoolhouse right now, for sure. Wasn't that, all right? We have modern buildings from the 50s.
And then now, especially with, the climate in the shitter, where it's like you gotta have your buildings energy rated, green buildings. You can't just be leaking out all of your heat and cold air. And so what do? You tear down the building from the inside and just build a building inside of it that's totally energy efficient and just keep the facade? Like, what do you do?
It's like an outer dome. Yeah. I would love to hear those TV facts you have for
I would
us.
love to share them. I'm not going to try to pull statistics and numbers off the top of my head, because I always get wrong. But yeah, it's
I have the benefit of researching in advance. Casey's on the spot, so you are clear on that front.
No, it's so in like the Twin Cities, most public health agencies have public health nurses who are dedicated to tuberculosis, to TB, because there's a lot of people who live in the community with tuberculosis. Just kind of a clarifying point. You talked about this earlier. You mentioned it, where it's if you are an active TB case, your infection is active, then you are a danger potentially to others around you. But most TB cases for folks in the metro who have it are basically in remission, like they're not an active case. So you'll never be clear of it necessarily. And there's a lot of ton of antibiotic resistance with TB because there's a lot of non-compliance with drug regimen. So a lot of the work that's done with TB with our public health nurses is active monitoring people, like Skyping them every day to make sure they take their meds.
Yes, there was a story that I read. This was from Sanhaven in North Dakota. They had a story on one of the websites I read of a woman who spent time there, and she actually did not have TB, but she reacted weirdly to one of the tests they did for her. So she had to go to the sanatorium, and even though she never had it, and she spent, I think, a year there or so. And so now, even though she never had it, she probably was infected with it, like an inactive case. And so she said she has to take like 20 pills a day now for the rest of her life because of this
false positive for the test. And from my understanding, it's like you have your chest x-rays and then you have like the skin test. But I remember one thing, especially with like international students who are coming over, in other countries they actually vaccinate for TB. But the downside, and the reason why we don't vaccinate for TB in the United States, is that once you're vaccinated, you will always test positive. You will react to the test. And so you have to have evidence of having the vaccine, or else they wouldn't let you in because you would be positive.
I was reading too about how patients at the sanatorium, they didn't have disposable Kleenexes at the time. I guess people spit a lot then. I guess people do now, but they had like little cups where if they needed to spit, they would spit into this cup, and then, or if they needed to blow into like a handkerchief, all those items would be burned.
Just light it on fire.
Yeah, because that would.
I just remember that because they had like the ordinances against spitting, and part of that was specifically about trying to stop TB and infectious disease transmission.
Yes. A weird connection that I read too between TB and the Twin Cities. It was a very popular and almost like fad place to go when you had TB. So there was this period of years where there was all these people who would come there with TB, and they'd only be there for like a month and then they'd die.
Whoa.
So there was all these strangers coming in to die in Minneapolis.
I mean, I guess I kind of came to Minnesota to die, so I mean, like, here we are. I just remember like reading literature where it's like so-and-so went to the country for a while and they just had TB.
Yes! Yes, exactly. You always read about that in old books. Someone's off, taking in the countryside.
Yeah, because they'd sputumed on each other, and then it's just...
The last little factoid that I thought was really interesting about TB was back in like the 1800s. It was considered an artistic disease. Like, it was associated
fashionable
with creativity.
Yeah.
Yes, because like name any poet, they had it. Like, it was the Bronte sisters, Edgar Allan Poe. I could go on forever. They all had it, and so it was considered like this artistic disease that was supposed to help you with your creativity. Eventually it did become associated with poor people and sweatshops, but until then, pretty much everyone died from it if you look back at that time. It was like at one point in Europe, 1 out of 4 deaths were caused by TB.
Jeez.
And in France, it was like 1 in 6 at that time.
You think we'd take infectious disease more seriously?
I know. When I was reading this, I was like, why is everyone like acting like coronavirus? This is the first time that's happened.
Wait,
like,
it
this
also
is, like,
sucks
the
because
exact
it shows
same
how like
thing.
little humans have, TP's rampant, people spitting on each other, like COVID's rampant, everyone's breathing on each other. It's just, God, humans are so dumb.
just blasting each other with particles.
When this comes up, where it's like how indignant and upset people are about the thought of somebody in their community having TB. Meanwhile, everyone's got COVID and they just don't even care. Like, I
feel like we're going to be added to some sort of list for looking all this stuff up.
Right. I've been searching how to survive a coup and how to, so I mean, I'm on a list already.
How is TB spread? So, Casey, what are you going to do with your 16 years at the COVID sanatorium?
Oh, jeez. I'm going to haunt it. I'm going to learn to knit. I suppose... Do I have video games to play? Because I can catch up on my backlog of Steam games that I haven't touched.
Okay, what 3 items would you bring with you then?
I would bring...
A PS4?
Yeah. I would bring my old-timey journal and like my pen set. I would bring a deck of playing cards so I could play cards with my floor mates. And I don't know what other old-timey thing would I bring.
This is very Emily Dickinson of you.
What would you bring?
I would bring... guess I would bring my phone, because then I could at least talk to people.
Yep.
And a computer, because I so hate browsing the internet on my phone.
And then you have to bring your tablet so you can keep working, because you can't ever stop working.
Oh, you know what? That's true. I probably would.
We can wrap the tablet in with the computer, because it's all like electronic and it goes together. What would be your third
There
item?
we go.
Yeah.
My third item... I would bring my shade button, just to annoy everyone.
You wouldn't bring, like, the locket with somebody, or, like, with the hair in it, or an embroidered handkerchief that you didn't let anybody, like, set on fire?
You know what? I got plenty of time for handicrafts when I get there. I'll make those when I get there.
You just got, like, 20,000 lockets.
I'm like Jacob Marley, just, like, covered in chains and lockets. I took up smelting in my quarantine.
The ultimate quarantine. I'm gonna go off, right? But just like, how freaking entitled are people where they just won't sit in their house for 14 days? And I mean, granted, we should be giving people money that they can afford to not go to work and spread disease. 14 days. That's all it is. 14 freaking days when like people are stuck in this place for 16 years to keep from killing each other with TB. But no, we can't. Here in 2020, we are too soft and too comfortable that we cannot isolate ourselves for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And we have a computer. We have TV. We've got books.
We've phonographs.
Yeah, we got those vinyl records. Yeah, meanwhile, you're sitting in your bed in the sanatorium with like 20 other people in the room with you, and like, what? I don't know, you're reading the same book 5 times in a row. Like, I can't even. I can't. I'm done. I know. You triggered me. I'm so mad.
I know. No, I totally agree. It's very super relevant to what we're doing right now. But how was your week, Casey?
Oh, jeez. I'm kind of brain fried actually from it because I dealt with so much COVID, so many COVID complaints, so many people just not wanting to play nice and cover their faces. How was your week?
It was good. I've been obsessed with absurdly specific ambiance videos on YouTube. Here, let me see what I got in the tabs here. All right.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Have you ever listened to any of these? Do you know about these?
I mean, is this like pure moods? No, or like what is like, this? Pure moods for 2020?
They're so specific. Okay, so I'm just going to go through my tabs here. I got medieval castle path ambiance. It's like horses, merchants.
This is like some ASMR shit.
Yeah, kind of. And except no one's like whispering at you. Oh, there's one that I started listening to today. It's a cozy autumn luxury train. So basically you're like in this beautiful train car, and then the windows are almost like a green screen. And they have all this like scenery passing by, and it's like raining.
Is this on like a 24-hour loop of train adventure?
Yeah, these are like 5 hours long, yeah. And then, okay, so here's an example of like the really specific. We got fortune teller caravan ambiance, bubbling potion sounds, chimes, shuffling sounds. Oh, and this one has crinkles, but I don't, okay, that is an ASMR thing. But.
So,
you like this one? Night greenhouse ambiance.
Ooh.
Plant watering, night nature sounds, pages turning, crackling fire.
Is this your like pre-Halloween? Because some of these sound kind of spooky.
Yeah, there is. Oh my god, I couldn't like. I was trying to see if I could find it in this related videos off here. Like, there was one that was like, witch cave something. Like, do you see what I mean? It's like so
Can we get a
like what?
A sanatorium from
People
1920 and like the soft and distant coughing of people dying from consumption?
Give me 1 second. I bet that exists. Let me look. Okay, here we go. Psychiatric hospital creepy sounds. Mental institution. Mental asylum horror sounds. Halloween. You could give me any scenario and there is an ambiance YouTube video
I want brothel ambiance. No, I don't. I don't want that at all.
I'm just kidding. I don't want that in my search history. I just saw the comments on this one. These actually have pretty funny comments.
Oh.
There's a Victorian era ambiance. It's basically Bloodborne. It's soft rain sounds, horses, crows, bells. This person commented, only 1800s kids will remember.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
I'm glad you're relaxing and jamming out.
I've been exploring the wonderful world of ambiance. I don't know, I love like moods. And yeah, these like are really good at that.
We did burn copies of Pure Moods back in middle school.
Pure Moods was the best.
Oh, so fucking good.
That was more like music though.
That's true. It was less ambiance and more weird new age jams for the mainstream.
Pop tunes,
yeah.
If you've never heard Pure Moods, this is the gift that we bring to you on this episode. Go look it up.
Yeah, you go onto Spotify and you listen to that right now.
All right, should we plug our stuff?
Yeah, plug it.
All right, we are on Instagram at Paranormal Planes.
We are at Twitter at ParaPlanesPod because haunted ghost quilt squares didn't fit.
Wonders upon wonders. It didn't fit. All right, we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Don't stay at an illegal vacation rental and then sneak into a haunted house and get killed by ghosts. Don't do that.